Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another video. Today I'm talking about the GE66. This is a P-review of this particular laptop. I'm calling it that because it's not a full review, but it's a little bit more involved than a typical preview. I spent about a week with this laptop, which traditionally wouldn't be enough time to review it. But because I spent a lot of time with last year's version, maybe about almost 3 months total with it, and I did daily drive the GE66 last year. So I mean, it's all we're getting this year is just a spec update. The design is identical from what I'm able to see. So I mean, so with that being said, I might do another video on this. But when I do the GE76, I might throw this in here with a bit more of a comparison. If I have any updates, I'll try to update you guys. But I mean, I have a really good idea about how I feel about this laptop, and I don't think that's going to change. So let's just get right into it. Let's just talk about the design. Like I said, it's identical. If you've never held or used a GE66 before, I don't know how I feel about the design, to be honest. I should start with the logo. I mean, I think this logo, just in general, is just dated. I don't know how I'm going to start off this video talking about the logo of the dragon, but I don't like the way it looks. It just does not look classy. And it uses like this kind of blue. It's nice. I like the color blue, but I think this year the keyboard deck, the blue is a little bit different. I don't know. I'm just guessing here, but I think the blue on the inside by the keyboard deck is a bit darker, and I think it kind of creates a bit of a nicer experience. It kind of blends almost into like a navy blue or a black. But it does kind of look better. But I just don't like the design too much. It's like they're trying to be like a dragon, like right here. I don't know what these things are here. I don't know. I don't want to knock the design. I mean, it's subjective, and this is just my opinion. I hope they refresh this next year because they've had this design for at least 2 years, I believe. And I think some like MSI's newer laptops, like the Z series, those are beautiful, 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 beautiful. So I hope they update that. But you know, to each their own. So let's just move over to the keyboard now. The shallow travel is still there if you've used it. If you haven't, the travel is low. A bit lower than I would like. I can imagine a lot of people liking this. Is traditionally if you come from something like a MacBook or whatever. But what I do like are the keycaps are actually large. They're wide and they're larger, so it's easy to get your hands around the keys and you're able to type fairly consistently, and I do like that. So yeah, I don't want to compare this too much to the Scar 15, but in a way I have to because I think it's its closest competition in terms of specs. Not in terms exactly when it comes to price, but I'll get to that at the end. But what I do miss, just coming from the Scar 15, was the number pen on the touchpad. So I mean, I'm not going to spend too much time on that because I think I'm probably one of the only people that would really utilize it. But I like the keyboard better on the Scar. And if we're going to talk about the keyboard lighting, I would like to just give this a win just because the keyboard lighting just never really gets bright enough. But on the flip side, it gets dark and dim enough when you're in a dark room and you don't want to be flashy. One thing I don't like about the RGB in general is this, I think they call it the Mystic light in the front. I do like it actually. So let me backpedal a little bit. I do like it. I like it a lot. I like how it's a classy look. In terms of a way to implement RGB. But what I don't like is the keyboard lighting and the Mystic RGB are controlled differently. So if you use the keyboard shortcuts to lower the brightness, it doesn't change the Mystic light. You have to go into the SteelSeries software and change that independently, which is just kind of stupid. MSI really needs to fix this. And I'm going to focus on a lot of nitpicks because there's a lot to like about this laptop. So, I mean, I'm kind of picking up on some things that did annoy me, but overall, I think this is very competitive with the best of the 15 inchers out there. So with that being said, if I want to talk about ports, so one thing I really do like about this laptop is the ports. There's lots and lots and lots of them, especially compared to the Scar, which only had 4 USB ports, a combination of Type C and regular USB Type A's or B's. I forget which one it's called. But with the Scar, one of those is also your display port, so you lose one. This actually has a dedicated display port, and it also has 5 additional USB ports, so you have tons of ports for days, and it even includes an SD card slot. I mean, this laptop is a port monster, and especially at 15 inches, they're at the back and the sides, they're all over the place. I think you're going to be well served here. And one thing I do want to focus on in terms of the headphone jack is it uses an ESS Saber DAC. And MSI has always kind of advertised this on the side. It's on their website, but it makes a really, 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 really big difference. If you go into the Windows settings and you change the sample rate down to it's like 192 kilobits, and I don't remember exactly 96. I forget exactly what it is. I'll probably try to show like a little bit of B-roll of what I'm talking about, but the headphone jack is fantastic. Like, if you have a decent pair of headphones, you will be pleased with the audio. It is several notches better than any other laptop out there. Even the MacBook Pro 16. I know on stage they touted it has a high headphone impedance output, but that's just for high impedance headphones. This has both. This has both a good quality DAC and it has a good amp in there to make your headphones sing. I mean, as someone who used to kind of be I don't like using the word audiophile because that's kind of serious to call yourself that, but I spent a lot of time and energy with headphones in the past, and just connecting some good Sennheisers to this, or like the Oppo, whatever really good headphones you have, this will make it sing. So charger. Okay, so let me also talk about the charger. I'm having the same issue that I'm having with the Scar, where the charging cable itself that connects to the laptop, it's a bit too short. So you always have to keep the charging brick kind of close to your laptop. You can't just like kind of put it off to the side, and whenever you move your laptop, there's a chance that you're just going to yank on that heavy power cord. I mean, and it's a 280 watt power cord, and it's about the same size as the Scar 15. So hopefully going forward, we do kind of see a bit of a reduction in size. I would love to see gallium nitride in every single premium gaming laptop going forward. I mean, if Razer is able to get it, and if Alienware is able to get their charging bricks so much smaller and also offer a longer cord, I mean, I feel like everybody else should be able to. I don't really want to give them any more excuses because, I mean, that's a big deal to me. So, all right, so let's talk about the display. This is one of my favorite sections to talk about, and I'm so happy that I have a colorimeter now, so I'm actually able to get some really, really good readings and and not only explain what I'm seeing with the display, but actually back it up with some data. So here we go. I mean, this is a really, 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 really good QHD 240 hertz panel. It's better than the Scar, and I immediately noticed that when I picked it up for the first time. But before I get to the metrics, I want to talk about the MSI Center. There's the MSI color, I should say. It's so weird. It's so hard to get like a good reading out of everything, and then it doesn't always work consistently. So you can change it between sRGB, Adobe RGB, and display P3, which is their DCI P3 setting, and then there's a gamer mode. I think what the gamer mode does is it just unlocks the entire display, and what sRGB and Adobe RGB and P3 modes do, I think they try to clip it at those particular color gamuts, which ideally would be great for creators and anyone who just cares about an accurate picture. But I don't know, it just doesn't seem like it works well. Sometimes it doesn't change the colors at all. Sometimes it looks like it just dims the screen. It's so buggy. Honestly, if you care about, just for most people, just leave it on gamer mode, and then just enjoy the good picture. But if you care about accuracy, then you're probably just gonna have to get a colorimeter and then just put it onto gamer mode and then try to play around with the settings until it gets bright enough, because it's weird. It affects the brightness of each of them, and there are some situations where I lost brightness even though I was on full brightness on the Windows. I don't know. It's just, I don't know how to explain it. But it's just wonky. So the best thing I could do is to go to gamer mode and then play around the settings until it looks bright, and then just close True Color and then get it off of your startup apps, and then run your colorimeter and then calibrate it from there. You would only be going through that if you actually care about an accurate display. But anyway, so I'm done with MSI True Color, and it works well in some laptops, like their creator focused laptops, but it never worked well in any gaming laptop I've ever used. Anyway, so enough with the MSI True Color. Just no more. Just use a regular ICM profile like everyone else. I don't know why you have to go through this unusual way of calibrating our displays. Anyway, okay. So here's some of the performance numbers I've seen in terms of the display. 100% sRGB. I mean, no surprise there. 88% of Adobe RGB, and 99% of DCI-P3. So we're about what you would expect from a premium high-end display in 2022. The tone response is good. It's following along right along where it should. The gamma read at 2.2, which is the correct gamma. Okay, so let's just talk about brightness and contrast now. This is where I felt the monitor really, really shine, and where it started to look better than any other traditional IPS display that I have, especially beating the Scar, which I'm going to compare it a good amount to, because they're so similar. But the 0% brightness is pretty decent at 16.5 nits. I mean, that's kind of good enough if it's late at night and you just want to check some email or just do some light work or whatever before you go to bed. The brightness isn't going to be off-putting when you turn on when you open up the laptop, and especially if you have someone next to you, it's really, really distracting, and it helps. It prevents you from being able to sleep at night. It prevents you from winding down because your eyes and your mind is seeing this bright screen. So it's hard to use this laptop at night, even at 16.5 nits. I want to see lower, but at least it's a bit better. So I mean, going down the brightness section in terms of of the ramp up in terms of the brightness. So I mean, it seems like the sweet spot is around 75% brightness, where you're getting 258 nits and you're getting a 0.24 black level. I said that in the Razer video when I kind of went over the display analysis. 0.24 black levels gives you a really, really, really deep black, and at a contrast ratio of almost 1100 with a black point of 0.24 is a really, really nice looking experience. But if you want to go 100% brightness, you're actually getting 335 nits, and it is noticeably brighter than the Scar's than the Scar's maximum brightness. I think it measured 9% brighter than the Scar, but you see it. It makes a difference, and I'm happy about that. And the black point becomes 0.30 with a contrast ratio of 1,130 to 1. So I mean, these are really, really good numbers. I mean, and you see it. You really do see it. The blacks just look inkier to a point where things start to seem like they're popping out of the screen a little bit. I'm not saying it's OLED levels. We're not quite there yet, or mini LED levels. But for a traditional IPS display, this is really one of the better ones. I mean, 335 nits of brightness might not be the most ideal. It could have been brighter. I would have liked it to be a bit brighter, but for what we're getting and compared to what the competition is offering, this is one of the better displays. Okay, so let's just talk about fan noise. Even on silent mode or super battery mode, there's always a low fan sound that's always audible, and you could kind of hear a bit of like a motor sound, and I think that might just be related to for the fans to work. So I don't know. It's just persistent and it's distracting sometimes. I mean, I would really like to have a silent laptop when I want it to be silent. I'm not talking about when I'm gaming or doing anything, but this is just idle. I'm not doing anything at all, and the fan is always running. That's something I hope that it could be taken care of in the future. So now on to the extreme performance mode, which is where you typically would want to be when you're gaming. It's not so bad. It's audible, but it's equivalent to any other gaming laptop I've tried, and I mean it was like 50 between 56 and like 60 decibels, which is common, pretty typical. What I want to talk about though is the cooler boost setting. I cannot use cooler boost. It really does bring down the temps, and it really does alleviate a lot of the heat coming out of the left and the right side. And I mentioned before in my SCAR video that I don't like when I'm using my mouse and there's hot air blowing on me. Cooler boost helps with that, but you need some noise canceling headphones when you're using that. It's way too loud and it's too distracting. It takes me out of the experience when I'm playing games if I'm using cooler boost. And just recently I got an update, and there's now an intelligent section, and there's like a smart auto. I haven't got a chance to play around with that yet. I'll report more on that when I do the GE76 review. Okay, so I just want to talk about software really fast. It's constantly being updated this year, so it's hard for me to really talk about the state that it's in right now. But I mean, it's getting better. Like I mentioned, all of a sudden in the performance settings, which they call general settings. No, it's not general settings. It's called user scenario, and there's some weird translation. I know they're a Taiwanese company, but it looks like someone's like translating a lot of the software to English, and they're not always doing the most like the best job, I should say. So if you want to go into the different profiles, the different fan profiles and performance profiles, it's called user scenario. And like I mentioned before, they added an intelligent mode and an AI for smart auto and all the different user scenarios I spoke about earlier when I was going over the thermals. But then so if you want to get to the mux switch, you have to go to general settings, and in general settings there's also display overdrive. You can shut off the webcam, and you can do some other stuff too, but you're just bouncing around in a whole bunch of different sub apps to get to different features. I mean, I always say the armory crate's my favorite because everything's right there. You're able to do everything in the laptop with just a few clicks, and I like it because there's a lot to do, and you could spend a lot of time messing around with settings. And as a tinkerer, I love that myself. But it's just a really, really busy app. I think it just needs a little bit of a tuning. But I mean, it's okay. It's serviceable, and they've added. There's been some updates where some of these sub apps didn't work before, but it looks like it's working now. So I'll have to report a bit back on that going forward. Almost there, guys. Let's just talk about the performance. It's really, 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 really similar to the SCAR 15 I've tested recently. So I mean, you might just be able to refer to a lot of that from the previous video. Okay, so one of the big differences between these two is just the CPU. The SCAR has the 12900 and this has the 12700. They pulled a razor this year where the only way you could get a 12900 on the GE series is if you go with the 4K panel. Kind of dumb, I feel. I mean, I would have loved to have the 12900 in here, but I say this again and again, unless you're playing competitive games exclusively, you're not going to get that much of a difference. And so with that being said, let me just go into some of the performance numbers I've been seeing. So on Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I'm getting 136 FPS in 1080p and 111 frames at 1440p. Don't read too much into this. I mean, except for the 1080p score, it's because the CPU isn't as powerful as the SCAR or the GE76, which you'll see some results in there. I'm going to do a full video on that, but since I have some of these benchmarks up here, I've just been throwing them in there. So, I mean, the difference of maybe like 7-8 frames in 1080p could be enough for you if you're a competitive player. I know I'm talking about Shadow of Tomb Raider, which is a single player game, but it's a CPU based score. So, but honestly, I don't think it's worth that much of a difference. Okay, so now let's talk Overwatch. Unfortunately, they did a patch update, and when they do that, you lose your replay. So I had to start over. So I retested the SCAR and I tested the GE66. So let's just start with the average FPS. On the SCAR, I was getting 281 versus 256. And this, I feel, was a better test because this was an intense section of the game. This is the worst case scenario that you will probably see if you're playing a competitive game like Overwatch. And so with that being said, the 1% lows on the SCAR was 191. On the GE66, it was 161. And that was fairly noticeable. So again, competitive type shooters, you're going to be better served with the i9. If you don't care about that stuff, you don't need to be concerned with the difference between the i7 and the i9. Cyberpunk, 47.9 versus 48. I mean, identical. It's a GPU bound game. Red Dead Redemption 2, same thing. 92 FPS at 1080p versus 93 on some of the others, 74 on 1440p versus 77. So I might need to retest that, to be honest, because that there might have been something going on. But honestly, you know what? Just expect at GPU bound games. Just expect very similar results with the Dying Light, same thing. So I'm just gonna move over to Borderlands because that's always Borderlands and Shadow of the Tomb Raider uses a combination of both CPU and GPU. So I do like talking about these, but I'm not seeing anything crazy here, guys. It's on Badass 81 FPS versus like 82 on the Razor Blade. I mean, on the GE76 though, I got it 85.69, so slightly higher. Yeah, I mean, okay, I don't know. Just the RTX 3080 Ti at 150 watts performs nearly as good as a 165 watt part, and both the SCAR and the GE66 has it. So, I mean, I'm gonna get more into the GE76. I just started testing it, but from what I'm seeing is the difference between 150 watts and the 165 or even 175 isn't that grand. I mean, I don't think you should choose a 17-inch, or in this case, GE76, just because you want more performance. If you want a 15-inch, you're not really losing much performance. It's not to the level of where you'll ever be saying like, oh, I can't play this game this year. This new game that came out that has the best graphics ever. If I would have chose the GE76, I would have been able to, but with the GE66, I'm not able to. I mean, you're not seeing that level of a difference. It's a matter of like 5 or 6 frames, and it's not that worth it. I mean, and it's probably like a 4 or 5% difference. So don't get too hung up on the TGP. Once you're over a certain limit, I mean, at 150, you're getting like 95% of what the RTX 3080 Ti could do. So I mean, I don't know. It was kind of boring. It was. Let me say it again. It was kind of boring testing the performance on this laptop because it just kind of performs as good as some of the higher performance out there. So, I mean, it comes down to if you like the look of the GE66 versus the SCAR or versus any other 3080 Ti laptop that has like anywhere between 130 watts and up, I think you're going to get really close performance. So, I mean, why would you go for this over any of the other 15-inchers? I mean, I personally don't like the design, but the build quality is good. You got good feeling metal all across, and it doesn't get too hot to the touch. It does a really good job dissipating the heat. The keyboard deck has no flex. You're getting that DAC, which sounds amazing. You're getting a better screen, probably the best 15-inch QHD screen in the market, until I see something else. But also, in terms of pricing, the Scar 15 is $32.99, and you get the Core i9, while this is $34.99 US, and you're not getting as much in terms of specs. And one thing I also do want to notice, point out, is it seems like the wattage on the CPU is a good amount lower than what I was seeing on the Scar. In certain sections of Overwatch where the CPU is being pushed, this will go up, the Scar will go up to like 70, 78 watts, and such, but the GE66 kind of hovers and stays around 45 watts. I don't know if I have to manually unlock that or something, but it's not something I'm willing to do. I like testing laptops as it comes out of the factory. I mean, maybe you could tinker around with it, but like I said, I mean, the benchmark scores aren't really showing like you're losing out on that much. So I honestly wouldn't be too concerned about it. But no, I do like this laptop, and there's something about MSI laptops just always seems snappier, just in terms of their overall latency. Even the trackpad, even though it's a small trackpad, it just seems smoother, and it's more responsive than the Scar, than any other laptop I've used. Something about what MSI does, they're able to get their latency, their input lag to be the lowest of anyone in the market. So, I mean, that alone could be worth the price of admission for you. No, I really do like this laptop. It's just a really competitive field right now. And I'm not going to say that I like this over the Scar, because they're like 90% similar, to be honest. It's just, I hope I pointed out the few differences between them. But, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll do another update on this. So let me know in the comments if I missed anything that you want me to go over. If I do a full review, I feel like I'm covering this in its entirety. So, but anyway, let me know. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. That'll be all.